Welcome back. Tonight, we drift through the sleepy streets of Tokyo. So wherever you are, however your day has been, you have nothing to do now but rest. There are no twists tonight, nothing to follow, nothing you need to remember in the morning. A city of neon and shadow breathing slow under a soft night rain. We'll drift slowly, in no hurry to be anywhere at all. If these journeys help you rest, you're welcome to follow along, but only if you'd like to. And if you're listening now, leave the name of your city and the time where you are. Wherever you're listening from, you're in good company tonight. So let yourself settle, let your shoulders soften, and let your eyes close whenever they're ready. Breathe in slowly, and let it go. There's no need to stay awake for any of this. Just let the streets of Tokyo come to you. While walking through the heart of Tokyo, you might sense that the streets do not conform to a simple grid, instead curving and winding in on themselves. This layout is not an accident of time but rather a deliberate choice that originated when the shogun Tokugawa Ieyasu first conceived of his city, Edo, as a fortress. The roads were intentionally designed to spiral outward from his castle, creating a labyrinthine maze of wood and stone. This arrangement was a defensive measure, intended to disorient any invading army by leading them in circles until they were lost. Although the invaders never materialized, the design endured, becoming permanently etched into the landscape. You can still feel that intentional confusion within the quiet, winding lanes of the city's core, where a military strategy from the 17th century continues to guide your footsteps through the modern metropolis. The old city of Edo was a dense and flammable world constructed primarily of wood and paper, which for centuries had followed a familiar cycle of growth, fire, and reconstruction. In 1923, however, a different and more definitive kind of ending arrived. The Great Kanto earthquake, and the devastating firestorms that followed, proved to be an absolute terminal event for the old world. It didn't just destroy buildings, it completely erased the very fabric of the city, causing the tight, winding lanes and wooden houses of the shogun's capital to vanish into smoke and ash. What remained was a vast, empty space that presented itself as a blank slate, from which a new Tokyo began to rise. Planners seized the chance to build a modern Western-style metropolis, laying down wider roads and more resilient structures. The disaster, therefore, created the unexpected opportunity for a complete reinvention, meaning the city that stands today was truly born from the one lost in the flames of that single, catastrophic September day. A significant portion of the ground beneath your feet in Tokyo is not original land, but rather territory created by human hands and reclaimed from the sea. The entire island of Odaiba, with its futuristic architecture and elevated monorail, was once nothing more than open water in Tokyo Bay. This process of land reclamation is not a modern phenomenon here. It began centuries ago with the initial construction of Edo Castle. As workers excavated the massive moat surrounding the fortress, they needed a place to deposit all of the displaced earth. This soil was then used to fill in the coastal marshes and push back the shoreline of the bay, piece by piece. Over generations, this practice continued, creating new territory for a city that was constantly growing. What was once a shallow bay is now solid ground, supporting skyscrapers and entire neighborhoods, a testament to a city that has actively built the very land it stands upon. Long before it became a metropolis of trains and expressways, Tokyo was conceived as a city of water, where a vast network of canals and rivers served as the primary arteries for life and commerce. These waterways functioned as the city's first highways, with small boats ferrying goods, food and people through the various neighborhoods, their paths dictated by the slow-moving currents. The soundscape of Old Edo was dominated by water lapping against stone walls and the distinct calls of boatmen. As the modern city expanded, however, these canals were deemed inconvenient and were systematically filled in, paved over, and transformed into roads. Today, many of Tokyo's major thoroughfares, particularly those that are unusually wide and straight, follow the exact routes of these forgotten rivers. When you are driving or walking on them, you are traversing the ghost of a waterway, a hidden history buried just beneath the asphalt. The Yamanote Line functions as the city's essential circulatory system, a perfect loop that seems to define the boundaries of central Tokyo. It feels so intentional and fundamental that imagining the city without it is difficult, yet it was never planned as a circle. In the early days of rail transport, various private companies constructed their own separate tracks, competing fiercely for passengers and profitable routes. One line would serve the northern districts, while another served the south, operating as rivals rather than partners. It was only later that the government recognized the strategic value in connecting these disparate segments. They commissioned the final sections of track that would link the existing lines, ultimately forming the loop we know today. The iconic circle that now serves as the city's organizing principle was actually an afterthought, a pragmatic solution born from competition, rather than a grand unified vision. For most of its history, Shinjuku was a quiet place, little more than a small post town on the main road leading out of Edo. It was a place one passed through, not a destination, as the heart of the city lay far to the east in the low-lying areas of Ginza and Nihonbashi. The Great Kanto earthquake of 1923, however, altered the city's destiny entirely. When the traditional city center was flattened and consumed by fire, people and businesses sought safer ground. They fled westward, towards the more stable elevated land where Shinjuku stood. This sudden mass migration was the spark that ignited the area's explosive growth. What was once a sleepy outpost became a new urban frontier, attracting businesses, department stores, and entertainment venues that created a second, rival center for the city. The disaster that destroyed one part of Tokyo was the very event that gave birth to the massive, glittering metropolis of modern Shinjuku. For Tokyo, the 1964 Olympics represented far more than a simple sporting event. They served as a monumental deadline. The city was determined to showcase its post-war recovery and modernity to the world, which resulted in a frantic, almost desperate construction boom. The transformation was immense, and has proven to be permanent. The Shinkansen bullet train, a powerful symbol of the new Japan, was rushed to completion to connect Tokyo with the rest of the country. Elevated expressways were constructed at an incredible speed, often directly over old canals and neighborhoods, scarring the city in order to save it. New subway lines were excavated, and entire districts were rebuilt in a chaotic, forceful remaking of the urban landscape. The city that greeted the world in 1964 was a city in a hurry, and while the games lasted only a few weeks, the concrete and steel infrastructure built for them continues to define Tokyo's shape and rhythm today. While rivers are typically perceived as natural forces that carve their own paths over millennia, the Sumida River flowing through eastern Tokyo had its course significantly corrected by a shogun. When Tokugawa Ieyasu established his capital, the river's natural path presented a problem, as it was prone to flooding and offered suboptimal defense for his new castle. Consequently, he simply ordered it to be moved. A massive engineering project was undertaken to alter the river's flow, involving the excavation of new channels and the construction of extensive embankments. The objective was twofold: to protect the burgeoning city from floods, and to create a formidable natural barrier on the eastern flank of his castle. The river we see today, with its gentle and deliberate curve, is therefore not entirely a work of nature, but a piece of strategic military infrastructure, whose path was chosen by a warrior 400 years ago. The old city of Edo earned a rather grim nickname: the City of Fires and Quarrels. While the quarrels were between people, the fires were a constant and terrifying force, born of both nature and human error. The city was constructed from wood, bamboo and paper, all packed tightly together, meaning a small kitchen fire could, and often did, escalate into a raging inferno that consumed thousands of homes. These devastating blazes were so common that they became an integral part of the city's rhythm, making destruction an expectation, rather than a rare event. This constant cycle of being wiped out and having to rebuild fostered a unique culture of impermanence and resilience. People learned not to become too attached to material possessions, and developed an incredible speed at rebuilding. This spirit, born from centuries of watching their world burn, remains woven into the fabric of modern Tokyo. When the age of the samurai concluded in 1868, a new era dawned for Tokyo, and the powerful warrior class was formally dissolved, leaving their large, exclusive estates suddenly empty. These properties were not located in the suburbs, they were prime, centrally located lands, often featuring beautiful gardens and spacious grounds. The new Meiji government confiscated these vast tracts of real estate. Instead of selling them to the highest bidder, they were repurposed for public and national use, with former samurai mansions becoming the sites for new universities, government ministries, and public parks. Consequently, many of Tokyo's most beloved central green spaces, those quiet refuges in the heart of the metropolis, exist today because they were once the private domains of feudal lords. You can walk through a park and be treading on the very ground where a powerful samurai clan lived for generations, their private world now a gift to the city. Although the 1923 earthquake had profoundly reshaped Tokyo, the destruction wrought in 1945 was even more absolute. The firebombing raids of World War II flattened huge swathes of the city, far exceeding the damage of the earthquake, and resulting in a near-total annihilation of the urban landscape. In the aftermath, with resources scarce and millions left homeless, the city embarked on a period of reconstruction. This was not a carefully planned endeavor, but rather a rapid, often chaotic and desperate effort driven by necessity. Small businesses, workshops and homes were built quickly, packed tightly together wherever space could be found. This organic and almost frantic post-war rebuilding created the dense and vibrant urban fabric we see today. The jumble of small buildings, narrow alleys and mixed-use neighborhoods is a direct legacy of that period, a city built on ashes, its form defined by the urgency of survival. Tokyo can be described as a city of lost rivers, where dozens of small streams and waterways that once crisscrossed the landscape have vanished from sight, buried in concrete channels deep beneath the streets. The famous neighborhood of Shibuya, for instance, derives its name from the Shibuya River, with the name itself meaning Shibuya Valley. The river that carved that valley is, in fact, still there, though you cannot see it. It now flows within a large pipe, directly beneath the world-famous Scramble Crossing, a secret waterway under the feet of millions. The gentle slopes of the streets leading down to the station, the very topography of the area, are all dictated by this invisible river. It serves as a reminder that the modern city is merely a layer built upon an older, natural landscape, and while the rivers may be hidden, they continue to define the shape of the world above. Following a great fire that swept through the Ginza district in 1872, the government perceived an opportunity that extended beyond simple reconstruction. They decided to remake Ginza as a deliberate model of westernization and modernity, a statement to the world. Instead of traditional wooden structures, they mandated the use of fireproof brick buildings, creating a streetscape that more closely resembled London or Paris than Old Edo. They installed ornate gas lamps to illuminate the wide new boulevards, a clear symbol of progress and enlightenment. This was a conscious effort to demonstrate, both to the world and to Japan itself, that the nation was embracing the future and joining the ranks of modern, powerful countries. Ginza became a showcase, a piece of performance art in architecture, representing Japan's first bold step in building a city that could stand on the world stage. For centuries, the center of Japan's imperial power and culture was Kyoto, the traditional home of the emperor. The city we now call Tokyo was then a provincial castle town known as Edo. It first became the nation's political and military center in 1603, when the shogun established his seat of power there, but even then, it was not the official capital, as the emperor remained in Kyoto. This all changed in 1868 with the Meiji Restoration, when the emperor moved his court from Kyoto to Edo, signaling a massive shift in the country's power structure. To commemorate this monumental change, the city was given a new name. Edo was renamed Tokyo, which simply translates to Eastern Capital. The name itself was a declaration, announcing that the center of the nation had moved, and that this city, once a remote fortress, was now the heart of a new, modern Japan. The massive moats that encircle the imperial palace are an impressive sight, and a clear statement of defensive intent, but they served a crucial, dual purpose. They were not just about keeping invaders out, they were also instrumental in building the city up. As thousands of workers excavated these deep, wide trenches, they produced an enormous amount of earth. This soil was not discarded, but was carefully transported and utilized to build up the higher ground within the castle walls, creating a more commanding position for the fortress. The remainder of the earth was used to fill in the surrounding marshes and wetlands, reclaiming land from the bay itself. The very act of digging the moats was an act of landscape architecture, a brilliant and practical strategy, where the city's defenses were simultaneously used to sculpt its foundations, shaping the core of Tokyo from its inception. Tokyo does not have a single monolithic city center. Instead, it features several massive sub-centers like Shinjuku and Shibuya, each a bustling metropolis in its own right. This polycentric structure was not accidental, but was driven by two powerful forces: money and trains. As land prices in the traditional core around the imperial palace became prohibitively expensive, new development became increasingly difficult. Simultaneously, private railway companies were building commuter lines to bring people in from the growing suburbs. These companies constructed huge terminal stations where their lines ended, several miles west of the old center. To make their train lines more profitable, they then built massive department stores, theaters, and offices directly on top of their stations, creating new commercial hubs that pulled the city's energy westward and forged the multi-centered city we see today. During the Edo period, the shogun enforced a clever policy known as sankin kotai, or alternate attendance. This system required every feudal lord, or daimyo, from across Japan to reside in Edo for 1 year, then return to their own domain for the next. This constant, mandatory migration had a profound and lasting effect on the city. Hundreds of wealthy lords, along with their vast retinues of samurai and servants, were compelled to build and maintain large mansions in Edo, creating an immense demand for goods, services and labor. While the policy was a form of political control, keeping potential rivals under the shogun's watch and draining their finances, it also acted as a powerful economic engine that fueled Edo's explosive growth. The city swirled with people and money, transforming it into one of the largest and most vibrant metropolises in the world. The world-famous Tsukiji fish market, which for decades served as the heart of Tokyo's culinary world, was ultimately born from a disaster. The city's original fish market was situated in Nihonbashi, the bustling merchant center of Old Edo, where it had operated for centuries. However, in 1923, the Great Kanto earthquake and the subsequent fires completely destroyed it. The city urgently needed a new home for its vital fish trade, and the location at Tsukiji was chosen not for its charm, but for its sheer practicality. It was situated on the waterfront, providing easy access for fishing boats, and it was adjacent to a major freight rail line, allowing for the quick distribution of seafood across the city and country. The move was a pragmatic choice made in a time of crisis, meaning the legendary market only existed because its predecessor had been reduced to ashes. The concept of the department store, a single establishment where one could purchase almost anything under one roof, was pioneered in Tokyo. This innovation began with a company called Mitsukoshi, which started in 1673 as a humble kimono shop selling fine fabrics to the wealthy. Over the centuries it grew and evolved, and in the early 20th century, inspired by similar stores in the West, Mitsukoshi transformed itself into Japan's first modern department store. This was a revolutionary concept at the time, offering a huge variety of goods from clothing to furniture and food. They introduced fixed prices, an in-store restaurant, and even a rooftop garden, making the store a destination and an experience. This new way of shopping created a new culture of consumerism, changing how people in Tokyo spent their time and money, and setting a template for retail that would spread across the globe. During the mid-20th century, parts of Tokyo were literally sinking into the ground. The low-lying eastern districts, known as Shitamachi, were facing a slow-motion disaster caused by decades of factories and residents pumping massive amounts of groundwater from wells beneath the city. This excessive pumping caused the soft, alluvial ground to compact and subside. Entire neighborhoods began to sink, in some places by several feet, leaving them dangerously vulnerable to flooding and high tides. The crisis became so severe that buildings were cracking and seawalls were being breached. Finally, the government took drastic action, implementing strict regulations that banned the use of groundwater and forced a shift to river water for industrial and public use. The sinking stopped, averting a quiet, unseen crisis, and saving the city's historic eastern half from being reclaimed by the sea. Akihabara's identity as Electric Town was not the result of a grand urban plan, but rather grew organically from the rubble of post-war Japan. After World War II, the area became a black market where one could find scarce or unavailable goods, and one of the most sought-after items was components for building radios, a vital link to information and entertainment. Small stalls and shops sprang up, selling vacuum tubes, wires and transformers to a nascent community of hobbyists. This legacy of amateur electronics and DIY culture never really left. As technology evolved, so did Akihabara, with radio parts stores becoming home appliance shops, then personal computer stores, and eventually, the global hub for anime, manga and gaming culture. The neighborhood's entire identity, a beacon for geeks worldwide, can be traced back to those humble black market stalls. The land that is now Yoyogi Park has lived many different lives, holding layers of the city's 20th century history within its green borders. Before the war, it served as the military parade ground for the Imperial Japanese Army. After 1945, during the American occupation, it was transformed into a housing complex for U.S. military personnel and their families, a small slice of American suburbia called Washington Heights. Then, in preparation for the 1964 Olympics, the houses were cleared, and the area was converted into the Olympic Village, hosting athletes from around the world. Only after the games were over, after it had served all these other purposes, was the land finally given back to the city. It was then transformed into the sprawling public park that Tokyoites know and love today, a peaceful space built on layers of military, foreign and athletic history. By the 1960s, the Sumida River was effectively dead, as decades of industrial and household waste had turned it into a foul-smelling, polluted sewer. The water was grey and lifeless, choked with garbage, and it became a symbol of the environmental cost of Japan's rapid economic growth. However, a growing public outcry and a new environmental awareness led to a massive, decades-long cleanup effort. It was a slow and difficult process involving strict regulations on factories and the construction of new sewage treatment systems. Slowly and painstakingly, the river was brought back to life. Fish returned, the water cleared, and people began to see the waterfront not as a blight, but as a beautiful asset. The river's revival made its banks a desirable place once more, a testament to the city's capacity to heal its own self-inflicted wounds. When Tokugawa Ieyasu was choosing the site for his new capital, he did not select a location that was easy to build upon. He chose the marshy, undeveloped plain of Edo, which to many seemed like a poor choice, as the area was remote, swampy, and lacked the prestige of the old capital in Kyoto. For Ieyasu, however, this was its greatest advantage. It was a blank slate. In Kyoto, he would have been constrained by centuries of history, by existing temples, palaces, and powerful families. In Edo, he was free to design a city from scratch, entirely to his own specifications. He could build a capital that was a reflection of his power, not one he had to share. The decision to build on this difficult, empty land was a strategic one, allowing him to create a city in his own image, a fortress and a capital designed for a new era of rule. As you drive through Tokyo on its elevated expressways, you're often traveling on a kind of tomb. Many of these massive concrete highways were built directly over the city's old canals and rivers. In the rush to modernize for the 1964 Olympics and beyond, building roads was the highest priority, but the cost of purchasing land in the dense city was immense. Planners therefore chose a pragmatic if brutal solution. They utilized the public right-of-way that already existed in the form of the city's historic waterways. It was faster and cheaper to build concrete pillars in the canals and lay a highway on top. The result is a layered city, where the arteries of the past are buried beneath the arteries of the present. The rivers that once gave the city life were sacrificed for speed, their gentle curves now entombed in the dark, straight shadows of the expressways above. While the beautiful, historic red brick Tokyo Station appears to be a solid, deeply rooted anchor in the city's heart, its foundation is far from conventional. The station was constructed on soft, marshy ground, which presented a significant challenge for such a massive structure. Instead of driving deep concrete piles, the engineers employed a clever, older technology. The building does not have a deep foundation at all. Instead, it floats on a vast, dense grid of thousands of pine logs driven into the soft earth below. This wooden cushion was designed to be flexible, absorbing the shocks and tremors of earthquakes by moving with the ground instead of rigidly resisting it. The grand European-style station, a symbol of modernity, is secretly resting on a traditional, natural foundation, standing firm because it knows how to yield. At night, the Rainbow Bridge lives up to its name, glowing with a beautiful spectrum of colors against the dark sky, leading many to assume the bridge itself is painted in these vibrant hues. During the day, however, the truth is revealed. The bridge is painted a simple, functional white. The magic is entirely in the lighting. A complex array of lamps in just 3 colors, red, white and green, are positioned along its cables and towers. These lights are programmed to create the shifting, seasonal color patterns that give the bridge its famous nightly appearance. The power for this nightly spectacle is collected silently during the day, as solar panels integrated into the bridge's structure absorb the sun's energy. This stored power is then used to paint the bridge with light after dusk, a quiet, sustainable performance that transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. Far beneath the unassuming suburbs on Tokyo's periphery lies a space so vast and surreal that it seems to belong to science fiction, the Metropolitan Area Outer Underground Discharge Channel. The most stunning part of this massive flood diversion facility is the main pressure control tank, often referred to as the underground temple. It is a cavern of colossal pillars, each one 60 feet tall, stretching into the dim atmospheric distance. The scale is difficult to comprehend, and the cool, damp air is filled with a silence broken only by the occasional drip of water. This subterranean cathedral was constructed for a single powerful purpose: to protect the city above from devastating floods. When typhoons bring heavy rains, this immense space fills with raging floodwaters, diverting them safely away from the city and out to sea, a hidden, silent guardian of immense scale. Shinjuku Station is renowned for being the world's busiest transportation hub, where millions of people navigate its public concourses and platforms each day. Beneath this bustling public layer, however, lies another far more bewildering world. It is a hidden maze of unmapped maintenance tunnels, forgotten passages, and complex utility networks. This subterranean web connects the station's more than 200 exits, a secret circulatory system known only to a handful of engineers and maintenance workers. These concrete corridors carry the station's unseen lifeblood of power, water, and data. Some passages are old and dusty, remnants of earlier station designs, while others are filled with modern fiber optic cables. It is a city beneath the city, a place of quiet, functional mystery that makes the complex dance of the station above possible. The name Shibuya translates to astringent valley, a reference to the river that once flowed openly through the area. When you stand in the middle of the famous Scramble Crossing, surrounded by a cacophony of neon and noise, it is difficult to imagine a river was ever here. Yet it is. The Shibuya River was not removed. It was simply hidden from view. It now flows within a large concrete channel directly beneath the street, a ghost river running under the feet of the endless crowds. Although you cannot see or hear it, its presence continues to define the landscape. The gentle slopes of the streets leading down to the crossing, the very valley of the neighborhood's name, were carved by this river over thousands of years. The city has paved over its natural features, but it cannot erase them entirely. The Nekogin Capsule Tower, built in 1972, was a tangible dream of a futuristic city. It was a striking building, composed of a concrete core with 140 small, prefabricated pods plugged into its sides. Each capsule was a tiny self-contained apartment, complete with a bed, a desk, and a distinctive round window. The architect, Kisho Kurokawa, envisioned a flexible, metabolic city, and his design was based on the idea that these capsules could be individually unplugged and replaced as they aged, or as residents' needs changed. It was a beautiful and radical idea about how we could live in cities. In the 50 years that the tower stood, however, this promise was never fulfilled. Not a single capsule was ever replaced, and the futuristic vision of a constantly regenerating building remained just a vision, leaving the tower a beloved, crumbling relic of a future that never quite arrived. The main entrance to the Imperial Palace grounds is guarded by a beautiful and famous bridge called Nijubashi. Its name is often translated as double bridge, which leads many to believe it is a two-storied structure, a perception seemingly confirmed by the two bridges one sees, one in front of the other. The truth, however, is more subtle, a story of echoes and memory in architecture. The name Nijubashi actually refers to the original wooden bridge on this site. Its foundations were so deep that the support beams had to be stacked in 2 layers, creating a C-double structure. The modern iron bridge that replaced it only mimics this idea visually, with its foreground and background spans. The name therefore doesn't describe what is there now, but what used to be. Walking into the glass hall of the Tokyo International Forum feels like stepping inside the skeleton of some giant, beautiful creature. It is a massive ship-like structure, a soaring space filled with natural light that evokes a sense of wonder. The most remarkable thing about it is the feeling of openness, as the vast curved roof seems to float effortlessly overhead. This is made possible by a hidden feat of engineering. The entire weight of the massive glass and steel roof is supported by just 2 enormous steel columns, one at each end of the hall. With no internal supports to break up the space, the design allows for an uninterrupted light-filled public area that is both grand and welcoming. It is a space that feels impossibly large, and yet intimately connected to the sky, a testament to the power of elegant, almost invisible structural design. In the heart of Ginza, at its most famous intersection, the Waco building stands as a quiet, elegant landmark. Its clock tower has been a symbol of the district since 1932, a reliable presence watching over the city's most luxurious corner. The clock face itself is not painted metal, but something more substantial, crafted from beautiful polished black granite, which gives it a depth and seriousness befitting its role. 4 times an hour, its gentle chimes ring out over the noise of the city, playing a version of the Westminster Quarters, the same tune used by London's Big Ben. It is a sound that has marked the passing of days and decades in this spot, a calm and constant rhythm in a district dedicated to the latest trends, a small, enduring piece of history. As your subway train pulls into Omotesando Station, you might catch a fleeting glimpse of something unusual out of the corner of your eye. On the other side of the tracks, situated between the 2 active platforms, there exists a third, dimly lit platform. This is a Copper ghost platform, a station that was constructed but never used for its intended purpose, as it was originally built for a different subway line that was ultimately rerouted. Now, this silent, tiled space sits in the darkness between the bustling platforms. It is not entirely abandoned, however, as it is used for storing maintenance equipment and materials. Its moody, atmospheric setting has also made it a popular, if unofficial, filming location for movies and television shows, a secret stage hidden in plain sight. The main road that runs through Yanaka Cemetery is famous for the tunnel of cherry blossoms it creates in the spring, offering a beautiful and serene place for a quiet walk. You might notice, however, that the road itself is strangely wide and straight, almost like a grand avenue. This is because it was never intended to be a simple cemetery road. In the post-war rush to modernize, city planners had surveyed this path as part of a new urban raceway, an expressway that would have cut through the area. The plan was met with strong resistance from locals who wished to preserve the peace of the cemetery, and it was eventually abandoned. The survey lines remained, however, and the road was paved, its unusual width and straightness, the only evidence of the noisy high-speed future that was once planned for this quiet place of rest. Along the rivers in the eastern parts of Tokyo you will encounter massive, towering concrete walls that line the banks for miles, grey and imposing. It is easy to assume they are simply for flood control, designed to contain the rivers when they swell with heavy rain, but their sheer height tells a different story. These walls are built to a scale that seems to defy a simple river flood, because they are designed to withstand a much greater threat, a tsunami storm surge. The walls are a constant, visible reminder of the city's deep vulnerability to the sea, a permanent part of the landscape that is a silent, concrete admission that the ocean is always waiting. They may be unattractive, but they are a necessary shield, a quiet promise to protect the low-lying districts from a worst-case scenario. The automated Yurikamome train line offers some of the most spectacular views of the Tokyo waterfront, particularly as it approaches the Rainbow Bridge. To gain enough height to cross the bridge's main span, the elevated track performs a dramatic 270-degree spiral loop. From inside the train the city seems to pivot around you, the skyline and the bay wheeling into view in a cinematic fashion. This loop, however, was not designed for tourists. It is a purely functional and elegant engineering solution to a simple problem of elevation. The train needs to climb, and the loop is the most efficient way to achieve this in a tight space. It is a beautiful accident that this piece of practical infrastructure provides one of the most memorable experiences in the city, a graceful curve that lifts you up and over the water. The original Mansubashi station was a grand red brick building that served as a proud gateway to the city. It was heavily damaged in the 1923 earthquake, however, and eventually closed to passengers. For decades, its beautiful brick arches, which once supported the platforms above, were abandoned and sealed up. But they were not forgotten. Recently, these surviving arches have been given a new life, having been carefully preserved and beautifully renovated into a chic shopping arcade called Maachecute. The historic brickwork now serves as the backdrop for stylish cafes, design shops, and craft breweries. You can sit and have a coffee inside the very structure that once rumbled with the sound of steam trains, a thoughtful and creative act of preservation, where the city's past is not just remembered, but actively inhabited and enjoyed. The Tokyo Skytree stands as a marvel of modern engineering, specifically designed to withstand the most powerful earthquakes. Its design borrows a secret from a much older form of Japanese architecture, the traditional pagoda. Inside the Skytree's outer steel lattice frame, there is a massive, central pillar, made of reinforced concrete, known as a abili shinbushira. This central column is structurally separate from the outer tower, and is not attached to the frame. During an earthquake, as the outer tower sways one way, the heavy central pillar sways the other, out of phase. This counter-movement acts as a giant damper, absorbing up to half of the seismic energy, and keeping the tower stable. It is a 21st century application of a principle that has kept pagodas standing in Japan for over 1,000 years, a fusion of ancient wisdom and cutting-edge technology. The Imperial Palace grounds represent the most historic and heavily guarded piece of land in Tokyo. On the surface, it is a world of serene gardens, ancient walls, and quiet tradition. Beneath the gravel paths and pine trees, however, lies a hidden modern world. A network of clean, well-lit utility tunnels runs beneath the grounds, a secret infrastructure that keeps the palace running by carrying power, water, and communications, and is said to be large enough to drive through. There are also persistent rumors of deeper, more secret emergency escape routes, a last line of defense for the imperial family. This hidden layer provides a stark contrast to the historic landscape above, a reminder that even this most traditional of places is also a modern, functioning facility, with a secret, sterile world of concrete and steel hidden just out of sight. If you hear locals talking about the ochai soup, you might assume they are discussing a local delicacy, but it is not something you would ever want to eat. The ochai soup is the colloquial nickname for a massive underground storage facility for sewage and rainwater. It is a huge, cavernous space built beneath the Kanda River, designed to act as a giant holding tank during heavy storms and typhoons, when the city's sewer system can be overwhelmed. The facility can hold millions of gallons of storm runoff, a mixture of rainwater and raw sewage, preventing it from backing up into the streets. After the storm passes, the kamekiesu soup is slowly pumped out and sent to a treatment plant. It is a critical, if unseen and unappetizing, piece of infrastructure that protects the city from itself. Stepping inside the Tokyo Kami, the city's largest mosque, feels like being transported to another world. The busy streets of the Yoyogi Uehara neighborhood disappear, replaced by a profound sense of peace and beauty. The interior of the main prayer hall is breathtaking. Looking up, you see a vast dome covered in intricate hand-painted geometric patterns, in shades of blue, gold, and turquoise. The designs are in the classic Ottoman style, and every detail was crafted by skilled artisans, brought over from Turkey. Light filters down through beautiful stained glass windows, casting soft colors on the plush carpets. The air is still and cool. It is a space designed for contemplation and prayer, a masterpiece of traditional craftsmanship hidden away in a quiet corner of modern Tokyo, a gift of art and faith to the city. The Yushima Seido is a quiet, dignified temple dedicated to the philosopher Confucius. While the temple buildings themselves are beautiful, it is the walls surrounding the complex that are truly special. They are a rare and exquisite example of a construction technique called kirikomi hagi. The retaining walls are made of precisely cut stones, fitted together without mortar, to create a strong sloping surface, where the stones interlock perfectly, forming a beautiful, almost organic pattern. The top of the wall is capped with a line of dark green tiles, which protect the structure and add a touch of color. This method of construction is incredibly labor-intensive and requires a high degree of skill, a quiet testament to a level of craftsmanship and attention to detail that is rarely seen, a beautiful and functional piece of art that most visitors walk right past. In the basement of a sleek office building in Tokyo's financial district, something entirely unexpected is growing. This is Persona 02. A high-tech urban farm hidden within a corporate headquarters. Here, under the bright glow of powerful LED lights, you can find fields of broccoli, rows of tomato vines, and even a small but productive rice paddy. The air is warm and humid, a sharp contrast to the climate-controlled offices above. The food grown here is not for sale. It is harvested and served in the employee cafeteria upstairs, a true farm-to-table experience in the most unlikely of settings. It is a surreal and beautiful experiment in urban agriculture, an attempt to bring nature and food production into the heart of the concrete jungle, a green secret hidden in a basement. Shinjuku Joren is one of Tokyo's most beautiful parks, a sprawling landscape composed of different international garden styles. Hidden within its borders, however, is a building that many visitors miss. The old Imperial Rest House, or Kyugoryo Tei, is a delicate wooden structure, built in a traditional style that blends Chinese and Japanese influences. It was originally constructed for the emperor to use as a private resting place, when he visited the gardens. It stands today as a rare and beautifully preserved example of imperial architecture from before the war. The building is elegant and understated, designed to harmonize with its natural surroundings. To find it feels like discovering a secret, a quiet, peaceful corner of the park that offers a glimpse into a more formal and private world that existed before the gardens were open to the public. The Tokyo Bay Aqualine is a remarkable piece of engineering that connects two sides of Tokyo Bay. It begins as a long, graceful bridge stretching out from the shore, but then, in the middle of the bay, it does something strange. The bridge seems to abruptly vanish, as the lanes of traffic descend into a circular man-made island and disappear into the water. The bridge has become a tunnel for the remainder of the journey. This transition point is an artificial island named Umihotaru, which means sea firefly. It is designed to look like a cruise ship and serves as a futuristic rest stop where you can park your car, have a coffee, and watch ships go by, all while standing on a tiny island in the middle of the ocean, directly above a tunnel carrying thousands of cars beneath the waves. The Jimbocho district is Tokyo's renowned book town, a neighborhood of narrow streets lined with shops selling new and used books. It is a place for quiet browsing and unexpected discovery. As you walk through the area, if you look closely at the brick walls of the older buildings, you might see faint traces of the past. These are ghost signs, the faded hand-painted advertisements for publishers, bookstores and printing companies that have been gone for decades. The paint is peeling and the letters are barely legible, but they are still there, whispering the names of businesses long forgotten. They are a quiet, accidental archive of the neighborhood's history, a record of its literary past, written on the very bricks of its buildings. Each sign is a small mystery, a connection to a time when the book trade was even more central to this special corner of the city. The National Diet Building is the center of Japanese politics, a grand and imposing structure, with a distinctive pyramid at the top of its central tower. Many assume this pyramid houses an important office or a viewing gallery, but the space inside is not for daily use. It is a hollow, ceremonial hall with a skylight at its peak. Directly beneath the center point of this hall, on the floor below, lies a special marker. This is the Japan Standard of Longitude and Latitude, the official starting point for land surveying across all of Japan. It is the 0 point from which the country is measured. The pyramid is not just a decorative flourish. It is a monument that marks the very center of the nation's cartographic grid, a symbolic peak that sits atop the literal heart of the country's geography, a secret hidden within the halls of power. When you think of a castle moat, you almost certainly think of water. On the western side of the Imperial Palace, the former Edo Castle, however, there is a different kind of defense. It is the karebori, or dry moat. This is not a shallow ditch, but a massive, deep trench cut directly into the earth. Its sides are steep and sloped, making it incredibly difficult for an attacker to climb. It was a formidable defensive structure that required no water to be effective, and in some ways, it was even superior, as there was no risk of it being drained by an attacking army. Today, the dry moat is a wide, grassy expanse, a peaceful green belt in the heart of the city. It is easy to forget its original purpose, but it remains a powerful piece of military engineering, a testament to the ingenuity of castle builders, who understood that a deep void could be as strong a defense as a wall of water. As midnight approaches in Tokyo, a quiet but urgent drama unfolds simultaneously across the entire metropolis. The nightly race to catch the Shuden, or the last train home. A synchronized rush begins. As people pour out of bars and restaurants, their evening conversations cut short by the ticking clock. There is a shared understanding and a collective urgency, because to miss the last train means a difficult choice between a costly taxi ride or a night in a capsule hotel. For a few brief minutes, the station platforms are crowded, then just as suddenly, they are empty. The departure of the last train signifies a definitive end to the day, after which the gates close, the lights dim, and a deep quiet falls over the stations. The city holds its breath for a few hours before the first train of the morning begins the rhythm all over again. During the cold winter evenings in Tokyo's quiet residential neighborhoods, a distinctive and melancholic recorded song can sometimes be heard drifting through the chilly air. This is the sound of the Yaki-imo truck, a small vehicle equipped with a wood-fired stone oven in the back, which drives slowly through the residential streets. The song is an announcement that hot, slow-roasted sweet potatoes are available. The vendor, often an older man, will pull a perfectly cooked purple-skinned potato from the hot stones, its rising steam carrying a sweet, comforting aroma. It is a classic taste and sound of winter in Japan, a simple, mobile ritual that brings a little warmth and sweetness to the long, dark evenings. The song itself has become a beloved piece of the city's seasonal soundtrack. As the sun rises over Tokyo, a gentle ritual commences in parks and public squares across the city. Groups of people, mostly elderly but of all ages, gather for Radio Taiso. A familiar piano melody, broadcast on the radio every morning for decades, plays from a public speaker or a small radio. Everyone begins to move in unison, following a set of simple, synchronized calisthenics. It is a gentle way to start the day, to stretch the body, and greet the morning with neighbors. There is a quiet sense of community in the shared movements, not a strenuous workout, but a moment of collective rhythm, a shared breath, before the city fully awakens. It is a small daily ceremony of health and togetherness, a quiet and consistent beat in the heart of the metropolis. Although the famous tuna auction has moved to a new, modern facility, the soul of Tokyo's kitchen, the Tsukiji outer market, remains. Its rhythm still begins long before dawn. In the cool, dark hours, the narrow lanes come to life, with the sound of vendors sharpening knives, and the clatter of carts on wet pavement. The first smells of the day are not of coffee, but of the sea, the sharp brine of fresh oysters, and the rich smoky aroma of scallops being grilled over small charcoal braziers. This is the quiet time, the period of preparation for the first wave of chefs and shoppers. It is a ritual of readiness, a sharpening of senses before the day begins. The market is a living thing, and in these early hours, you can feel it taking its first deep breath of the day. After the workday concludes, A subtle but important ritual takes place in small bars across Tokyo. The after-work drink at a takinomi or standing bar. These are typically small, no-frills places, often just a counter with room for a few people to stand, where co-workers gather for a quick beer and some small plates of food. This is more than just a drink. It is a liminal space between the office and home. In the informal setting of the takinomi, the strict hierarchies of the Japanese workplace can temporarily dissolve. The boss and the new employee might stand shoulder to shoulder, their conversation more relaxed and open. It is a place for unwinding, for sharing frustrations, and for strengthening bonds in a way that is not possible in a formal meeting room, a vital, informal part of corporate culture. The ritual of hanami, or cherry blossom viewing, is a cherished part of spring in Tokyo. But the true ritual is not just about admiring the beautiful fleeting flowers. It is about the social act of claiming a space beneath them. The most important tool for hanami is not a camera, but a simple blue plastic tarp. In popular parks, the competition for the best spots is fierce, so someone from a group, often the youngest member of a company, will be sent out hours, or even days in advance. Their mission is to lay down the blue tarp and guard it, reserving a piece of ground for the party to come. To see a lone blue tarp sitting under a canopy of blossoms in the early morning light is to see the quiet, patient beginning of a celebration. The party itself is loud and joyful, but the real work is in the silent, blue placeholder. The rush hour commute on a Tokyo train is an experience of extreme proximity, with people packed together so tightly that movement is often impossible. Yet, despite the intense physical closeness, the journey is famously, almost unnervingly, quiet. There is a powerful, unwritten rule that everyone understands and respects. You do not talk on the phone, you do not have loud conversations, and you keep your music to yourself. The result is a strange and unique atmosphere of collective silent intimacy. The train is filled with the soft rustle of newspapers, the quiet tapping of phone screens, and the gentle hum of the train itself. This collective silence is a remarkable act of social coordination, a quiet ritual that makes the crush of the city bearable for millions every day. The first few days of the new year are a time of profound ritual in Tokyo, as millions of people perform Hatsumode, the first shrine or temple visit of the year. They flock to major sites like Meiji Jingu or Sensoji, forming long, patient lines that can stretch for hours. The atmosphere is festive, but also deeply personal. People wait quietly for their turn to approach the main hall, where they will toss a coin, bowl, and say a silent prayer for the year ahead. They purchase new, omamori or good luck charms, for health, success or love, and they bring their old charms from the previous year to be ritually disposed of in a sacred bonfire. It is a collective act of renewal, a way to close the book on the past, and start the new year with a clean slate and fresh hope. In Tokyo, one can track the changing of the seasons, not just by the weather, but by the snacks available in the local convenience store. The humble Kit Kat chocolate bar has become an unlikely but surprisingly accurate calendar. As the seasons turn, a new, limited edition flavor appears on the shelves, celebrated with beautifully designed packaging. Spring arrives with the delicate flavor of sakura cherry blossom, while summer might bring a refreshing citrus or salt lemon. Autumn is the time for roasted sweet potato or chestnut, and winter could feature a rich dark chocolate or a festive raspberry. This constant rotation is a small but reliable rhythm of city life. While a form of marketing, it has also become a beloved ritual, a sweet and simple way to mark the passage of time and savor the taste of the season. For many Tokyo residents living in small apartments, a proper bathtub is a luxury they do not have, yet the daily ritual of a hot bath is a deeply ingrained part of Japanese culture. This need is met by the neighborhood, sento, or public bathhouse. The sento is more than just a place to get clean. It is a cornerstone of the community, a place of quiet relaxation and social connection. After a long day, locals will come with their small towels and soap, ready to soak in the large, hot communal tubs. It is a space where generations mix, and conversations are quiet and unhurried, the steam-filled air muffling the sounds of the city outside. For a few hundred yen, the sento offers a small, essential escape, a daily ritual of warmth and stillness in the heart of the bustling city. As closing time approaches in a Japanese department store, a familiar piece of music begins to play over the sound system. The gentle, slightly melancholic melody of Auld Lang Syne. In Japan, the song is known as Hotaru no Hikari, or the light of the fireflies, and it has become the universal signal that the store is about to close. It is not an abrupt announcement, but a gentle, polite cue for shoppers to make their final purchases and head towards the exits. This is a city-wide ritual, a shared piece of auditory information that everyone understands. The sound of that song drifting through the emptying aisles of a grand department store is a uniquely Japanese experience, a soft and musical end to the commercial day. For a few days in the middle of August, Tokyo transforms into a different city, becoming strangely quiet as the trains grow less crowded, and a sense of calm descends. This is the Obon Festival, a time when millions of residents leave the capital and return to their ancestral hometowns in the countryside. The festival is a Buddhist tradition to honor the spirits of one's ancestors, a time for family reunions and visiting family graves. For those who remain in Tokyo, the city feels hollowed out, a brief, surreal version of itself. It is a reminder that for all its modernity, Tokyo is a city of migrants, a place where millions have come to work and live, but whose roots are still planted elsewhere. For a few days the city exhales, and you can feel its true size. The creation of a bento box is a quiet, daily ritual of care and affection that is much more than just packing a lunch. It is a small act of artistry, with a great deal of thought going into the bento, not just for taste and nutrition, but for visual appeal. Foods are meticulously arranged by color and texture, rice is molded into cute shapes, and vegetables are cut to look like flowers. A simple sausage might be sliced to resemble a tiny octopus. The goal is to create a balanced and beautiful meal that will be a small moment of joy in the middle of a loved one's day. When the lid is opened at school or the office, it is a personal message, a tangible expression of love, an edible work of art created in the quiet morning hours. The Shinjuku Golden Gai is a small, atmospheric maze of narrow alleys, packed with tiny bars where the rhythm of life is one of intimate conversations. Many of the bars are so small they can only seat 5 or 6 people at a time, and this enforced intimacy creates a special kind of community. You are not just a customer, you are a participant in the evening's conversation, with the bartender as host, and the regulars like family. Each bar has its own unique character and theme, a reflection of its owner's personality. To spend an evening in Golden Gai is to drift from one small, self-contained world to another, sharing stories and drinks with strangers who quickly feel like friends. It is a place where the scale of the city shrinks down to the size of a single, warm, welcoming room. The defining sound of a Tokyo summer is not the traffic or the crowds, but the deafening, pulsating chorus of the cicadas, or semi. As the weather turns hot and humid, their song begins, not as a gentle chirping, but as a powerful, rhythmic, almost overwhelming wall of sound that seems to emanate from every tree. The sound is a constant backdrop to the city's summer days, rising and falling in intensity with the heat. For some, it is a nostalgic sound of childhood summers. For others, a relentless reminder of the oppressive humidity. For everyone, however, it is an inescapable part of the season. The cicadas' song is the city's summer heartbeat, a natural rhythmic drone that overlays the man-made sounds of the metropolis, a powerful announcement that summer has truly arrived. Every weekend, the main street of the upscale Ginza district undergoes a quiet transformation. Barriers go up, and the constant flow of cars and taxis disappears, as the wide, multi-lane thoroughfare is closed to all traffic, becoming a Hokosha Tengoku, which translates to pedestrian heaven. This weekly ritual turns the street into a relaxed, open-air promenade, where people stroll leisurely down the middle of the avenue, no longer confined to the sidewalks. Cafes set up tables and umbrellas on the asphalt, and families, couples and shoppers all share the wide-open space. It is a simple but profound change, a temporary reclaiming of the city's infrastructure for people instead of cars. For a few hours, the rhythm of Ginza slows from the rush of traffic to the simple pace of a weekend stroll. In Tokyo, the line for a famous ramen shop is a ritual in itself, a testament to the city's deep appreciation for culinary perfection. Devotees of a particular bowl of noodles will think nothing of queuing for an hour or even longer. The line forms on the sidewalk, often before the shop has even opened its doors, but it is not a chaotic or impatient crowd. It is a silent, patient, single-file line of people who have come on a pilgrimage, standing quietly, scrolling on their phones or simply waiting, united in their shared purpose. This act of waiting is part of the experience, building anticipation, and serving as a quiet, collective acknowledgement that some things are worth waiting for. The line is a physical manifestation of devotion, a silent tribute to the pursuit of the perfect bowl. In the Ryogoku neighborhood, the home of sumo wrestling in Tokyo, the day begins with a powerful and ancient rhythm, the sound of asa gaiko, or morning sumo practice. From the outside of the sumo stables, or heya, one can hear the sounds of the intense training within. There is the sharp slap of skin on skin, the percussive thud of massive bodies colliding, and the powerful shouts and kiai that accompany the effort, along with the rhythmic scraping of feet on the clay dohyo. It is a raw and primal sound, a glimpse into a world of incredible discipline and physical commitment. The practice happens early, hidden from public view, but its sounds spill out into the quiet morning streets, a reminder that this neighborhood is the keeper of one of Japan's oldest and most sacred traditions. One of the most complex and deeply ingrained rituals of daily life in Tokyo is the sorting of trash, a city-wide act of collective responsibility performed in every household. Trash must be meticulously sorted into multiple categories: burnable, non-burnable, plastics, glass bottles, PET bottles, cans, and paper. Each category has a specific type of bag, and a specific day for collection, with rules that are complex and strictly enforced. To fail to sort your trash correctly is a serious social faux pas. This daily ritual is a constant, tangible reminder of living in a dense, resource-conscious society, requiring mindfulness and cooperation from every single resident. It is a quiet, shared burden, a complex dance of civic duty that keeps the massive, intricate machine of the city running smoothly. In Japan, a meal or a drinking session with a group does not begin with the first person who is served, but rather with a moment of synchronized unity. Everyone waits until all the drinks have been brought to the table. Then, glasses are raised, and the collective enthusiastic toast of "Kanpai" rings out. Only after this shared moment does anyone take their first sip. This is an essential and non-negotiable ritual, as to start drinking before the kanpai is considered rude. It is a small but powerful act that transforms a group of individuals into a collective, a moment of shared acknowledgement that says, "We are all here together, and we will begin this experience together." It is a unifying starting gun for the enjoyment to come. The month of December in Tokyo has a unique social rhythm, as it is the season of Bonankai, which literally translates to "forget the year parties." This is a month-long ritual where companies, colleagues and groups of friends gather to eat, drink and celebrate the end of the year. The purpose of the Boninkai is to let go of the past year's troubles, mistakes and grudges. It is a socially sanctioned opportunity to speak freely, to bond with colleagues, and to collectively put the year to rest. The city's restaurants and izakayas are booked solid throughout the month, a time of festive noise and late nights, a collective exhalation before the quiet reflection of the new year. It is a ritual of closure, a way to wipe the slate clean and prepare for the year to come. To step from the bustling streets of Asakusa into the grounds of the Sensoji Temple is to experience a sudden and profound shift in atmosphere. The noise of the city, the traffic, the crowds, the announcements, instantly fades, replaced by a different set of sounds. You hear the quiet shuffling of feet on stone paths, the low murmur of prayers, and the gentle clinking of coins being tossed as offerings. The air itself changes, becoming thick with the calming aromatic scent of incense wafting from the large bronze burner in the center of the courtyard. People pause to wave the smoke over themselves in a small ritual of purification. It is a sensory threshold, a clear line between the secular and the sacred, where the temple complex acts as an island of stillness, a place where the rhythm of the city slows to a more contemplative pace. In the basement food halls of Tokyo's grand department stores, known as Depachica, there is a special time of day. About an hour before the store closes, a new kind of energy fills the air as the discount frenzy begins. To avoid having to throw away unsold fresh food, vendors begin to mark down their prices, and you will hear the cheerful calls of the staff announcing new deals. Small, brightly colored stickers appear on packages of beautiful sushi, salads, and prepared meals. 20% off, 30% off, 50% off. A crowd of savvy shoppers gathers, waiting for the right moment to buy their dinner at a bargain. It is a fast-paced and exciting ritual, a win-win situation for both the vendors and the customers, and a daily, delicious and economical end to the Depachica's day. On certain weekends, the large open plaza of the Tokyo International Forum is transformed, as a sprawling antique market materializes where there was once empty space. This ritual gathering brings together vendors and collectors from all over the region. Hundreds of stalls are set up, each one a small museum of forgotten objects. You can spend hours sifting through history's cast-offs, old kimonos, vintage cameras, military memorabilia, strange tools whose purpose is long forgotten, and delicate porcelain from a grandmother's cupboard. The atmosphere is one of quiet, focused searching, a treasure hunt for some, and a nostalgic journey for others. For a day, this modern architectural space becomes a temporary home for the past, a place where the stories of countless ordinary objects are waiting to be rediscovered. A classic Tokyo summer ritual takes place high above the city streets, as this is the season of the rooftop beer garden. Many of the major department stores open up their roofs during the hot months, transforming them into large, open-air restaurants. It is a beloved escape from the heat and humidity of the city below. As the sun sets, friends and colleagues gather at long tables to enjoy cold beer and a variety of food, often cooked on grills right at the table. The air is filled with the sound of conversation and laughter, all set against the backdrop of the glittering city skyline. It is a simple pleasure, a way to feel a cool breeze and enjoy a panoramic view. The rooftop beer garden is a cherished urban oasis, a seasonal tradition that marks the heart of summer. While Tokyo's vending machines are renowned for their variety, a journey into the city's quiet residential alleys reveals offerings that extend far beyond simple beverages. Some machines function as tiny automated grocery stores. You might discover one that sells fresh eggs, neatly packed in cardboard cartons, and available 24 hours a day. Another machine might offer chilled bottles of dashi, the essential Japanese soup stock, providing a secret weapon for home cooks in a hurry. In some locations, you can even find a machine that dispenses a full hot meal, delivering a steaming bowl of ramen or soba noodles, ready to eat on the spot. These machines are a testament to the city's love of convenience and automation, a quiet and reliable source of life's necessities, tucked away in the most unexpected corners. Every city has an official bird, often a creature of noble or historic significance. The official bird of the Tokyo Metropolis is the black-headed gull, a common sight along the city's waterfront, especially in winter. The reason for its selection in 1965, however, is a charming and uniquely Tokyo-esque coincidence. The bird's Japanese name is Eureka Mome, which is the exact same name as the futuristic, automated train line that was later built to serve the very same waterfront areas where the gulls congregate. The train was named after the bird, which had already been chosen for the city. It is a perfect, self-referential loop, a small, poetic connection between the natural and the man-made worlds that define the landscape of Tokyo Bay, where the bird and the train share a name and a home. For many years, a strange and outdated law cast a shadow over Tokyo's nightlife. A 1948 law, originally designed to regulate dance halls and curb prostitution in the post-war era, had an unusual side effect. The law, which governed businesses affecting public morals, meant that, technically, you were not allowed to dance in most bars and clubs after 1 a.m. For decades, this no dancing law was selectively enforced, leading to occasional, surreal police raids on nightclubs where people were simply enjoying themselves. Club owners and music fans campaigned for years to have the law changed, arguing that it was absurd and damaging to the city's culture. The law was finally revised in 2015, officially making it legal to dance the night away. For a long time, however, dancing in Tokyo was a small, and technically illegal act of rebellion. The Ghibli Museum is a magical place, a whimsical building dedicated to the art of Studio Ghibli's animated films. Getting into this enchanting world, however, requires a very specific and unmagical ritual. You cannot simply show up and buy a ticket at the museum entrance, as they are not sold there. Instead, if you live in Japan, you must go to a Lawson convenience store and use a self-service kiosk called Loppi to purchase your ticket. You have to choose a specific date and a specific entry time, often weeks or months in advance, as they sell out quickly. It is a strange and bureaucratic hurdle to overcome before you can enter a world of fantasy. The journey to Totoro's forest begins not with a cat bus, but with a transaction at a brightly lit convenience store ticket machine. Inokashira Park is a beautiful romantic spot in western Tokyo, a popular destination for couples. The park has a large pond where you can rent paddle boats, many of which are shaped like whimsical white swans. These charming boats, however, are the subject of a persistent local urban legend. The story goes that if a couple rides in one of the swan boats together, they are cursed and destined to break up soon after. No one is quite sure where the legend came from. Some say the goddess Benzaiten, who is enshrined on the lake, is a jealous deity. Whatever its origin, the story is well known among young Tokyoites, adding a small frisson of risk to a romantic outing. Do you dare to tempt fate and get in the swan boat together? Or is it wiser to just walk around the pond? Tokyo is the undisputed culinary capital of the world, boasting more Michelin-starred restaurants than any other city. While the Michelin Guide is often associated with expensive, formal dining, white tablecloths, and extensive wine lists, the definition of excellence is broader in Tokyo. The city's Michelin Guide includes not just high-end French and kaiseki restaurants, but also humble counter-only ramen shops. Places like Suta and Nakiryu have earned one coveted star for their exceptional bowls of noodle soup, where you can have a Michelin-starred meal for around $10. It is a testament to the city's deep respect for craftsmanship in all its forms, and the belief that perfection can be found not just in luxury, but in a simple, perfect bowl of ramen, served with no frills, just incredible flavor. Trying to find an address in Tokyo can feel like solving a puzzle, because the city's address system is not based on sequential street numbers, as in many Western cities. Instead, it is a complex system based on areas. An address typically consists of a district, a chome or sub-district, a block number, and finally, a building number. The building numbers within a block, however, were often assigned in the order that the buildings were constructed, not in a geographical order. This means that building number 1 could be right next to building number 25. Navigating with a map becomes an exercise in pattern recognition, looking for the right block, and then hunting for the specific building number. It is a system that makes perfect sense once you understand its logic, but can be deeply confusing for the uninitiated. The statue of Hachiko, the loyal dog who waited for his master every day at Shibuya Station, is one of Tokyo's most famous landmarks, and a beloved meeting spot. The statue depicts the dog patiently waiting, a symbol of unwavering loyalty. There is, however, a second lesser-known Hachiko statue in the city that tells the end of the story. It is located on the campus of the University of Tokyo, where Hachiko's owner, Professor Ueno, used to teach. This statue, unveiled in 2015, does not show the dog waiting alone. Instead, it depicts the joyful reunion that never happened in life. A happy, excited Hachiko is shown jumping up to greet his master, who is bending down to welcome him. It is a heartwarming and cathartic sculpture, a beautiful tribute that finally brings the loyal dog and his beloved owner back together. During the peak of Japan's bubble economy, in the late 1980s, real estate prices in Tokyo soared to astronomical levels. The speculation was so intense that it led to a famous and almost unbelievable calculation. At that time it was estimated that the value of the land under the Imperial Palace grounds, a large but not enormous park in the center of the city, was worth more than all the real estate in the entire state of California. This single data point became a powerful symbol of the era's speculative frenzy. It was a time when it seemed like the value of this small patch of central Tokyo could eclipse the value of an entire US state. The bubble eventually burst, and prices came back to earth. But the story remains a potent reminder of just how wild the city's economy once became. In the quiet neighborhood of Meguro, there is a museum dedicated to a subject that most people would rather not think about. The Meguro Parasitological Museum is the only one of its kind in the world. A two-story building filled with fascinating and slightly terrifying exhibits about parasites. The museum is a serious scientific institution, but it has one-star attraction that draws curious visitors. On the second floor, there is a display case containing a nearly 29-foot-long tapeworm, which was removed from a man who ate contaminated trout. To help visitors grasp the incredible length of this creature, the museum has placed a rope of the exact same length next to the display case, stretching all the way across the room. It is a simple, effective and deeply unsettling visual aid, a strange and memorable highlight of this unique museum. The Nihonbashi Bridge is one of the most historic spots in all of Japan, having served as the zero point from which all distances to Tokyo were measured since the Edo period. It was a grand, elegant structure, the heart of the city's bustling merchant district. If you go to see this important landmark today, however, you might be disappointed. The beautiful, ornate bridge is still there, but it is almost completely hidden, trapped in the shadows beneath a massive, looming double-decker expressway that was built directly over it in the 1960s. The decision to build a highway over this historic symbol was controversial at the time. and it remains a powerful and rather sad symbol of a period when progress and the automobile were valued more than history and beauty. Godzilla is arguably Tokyo's most famous and most destructive resident, and the city has honored its most famous monster with a few statues. If you visit the one in the Hibiya neighborhood, you might be surprised to find a rather small, polite statue, only about 3 meters tall and not very menacing. For a more cinematic and satisfying Godzilla experience, you need to go to Shinjuku. There, perched on the terrace of the Toho Cinema Complex, is a giant, life-sized Godzilla head that peers over the edge of the building, roaring down at the crowds in the street below. It is a much more dramatic and impressive tribute to the king of the monsters. At certain times of the day, its eyes light up, and it lets out its signature roar, a fun and slightly startling piece of urban theater. Every year, magazines and real estate companies in Tokyo publish rankings of the most desirable neighborhoods to live in, and for years, one neighborhood has consistently topped the list: Kichijoji. It is a charming area with a beautiful park, trendy shops, and a relaxed, bohemian atmosphere. What makes its popularity so remarkable is its location. Kichijoji is not on the all-important Yamanote line, the train loop that defines central Tokyo. In a city where proximity to the Yamanote line is often a key factor in a neighborhood's prestige and convenience, Kichijoji's success is an anomaly. It has managed to create such a strong sense of place and community that people are willing to trade a little bit of convenience for a better quality of life. It is a neighborhood that has succeeded on its own terms, a rare and beloved outlier in the city's mental map. The Tokyo Tower, with its graceful red and white lattice, was a powerful symbol of Japan's post-war rebirth. When it was completed in 1958, it stood as a beacon of hope and a sign of the country's recovery and technological prowess. The tower, however, holds a secret in its very bones, as it is built, in part from the machinery of war. To construct the tower, builders needed a large amount of steel, some of which was sourced from an unusual place: American tanks that had been damaged during the Korean War and left in Japan. The scrap metal from these instruments of conflict was melted down and reforged into the structure of this new symbol of peace and progress. The tower that looked forward to a bright future was literally built from the remnants of a dark past. In the old neighborhood of Yanaka, there is a giant Himalayan cedar tree that has been standing for centuries, a magnificent and beloved landmark. In the post-war period, city planners were laying out a new road through the neighborhood, and the planned route went directly through the spot where the ancient tree stood. The logical thing to do would have been to cut it down, but the local residents would not allow it. They loved the tree, and campaigned fiercely to save it. In a rare victory for nature over urban planning, the residents won. Instead of cutting down the tree, the city agreed to split the road in two. The road now curves gracefully around the massive trunk of the cedar tree, which stands proudly in a small island in the middle of the pavement, a beautiful, living monument to community action. During the peak of morning rush hour, Tokyo's subway platforms can become a scene of organized chaos. The trains are already packed, but more people need to get on. To solve this problem, the city employs a special kind of station attendant known as an ata, oshiya, or komi, pusher. These uniformed staff, wearing their signature white gloves, have one job: to physically push passengers onto the crowded subway cars. It is not a violent or aggressive act, but a gentle yet firm pressure, applied to the backs of the last few passengers, to squeeze them in just enough, so that the train doors can safely close. It is a surreal and uniquely Japanese solution to the problem of extreme urban density. The pushers are a human element in the machine of the subway system, ensuring that the trains run on their famously precise schedule. Only in Tokyo could there be a museum dedicated to poop, that is also incredibly cute. The Unko Museum, which translates literally to the Poop Museum, is a popular and brightly colored attraction. It is dedicated to all things poop-themed, but in a way that is completely divorced from the gross reality. There is nothing brown or smelly here. Instead, everything is pastel-colored, sparkling, and adorable. Visitors can sit on colorful, non-functional toilets, play in a ball pit filled with soft, plush poops, and admire rainbow-colored poop sculptures. The museum is a celebration of kawaii, or cute culture, applied to the most unlikely of subjects. It is a whimsical, silly, and surprisingly photogenic experience, a place that takes a universal taboo and transforms it into something fun and playful. In Japan, even the most serious of public services often has a cute, friendly face. The official mascot of the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department is a character named Pipo-kun. He is a cartoon creature, an alien-like being with large floppy ears, a small antenna on his head, and big round eyes. Each of his features has a symbolic meaning. His large ears are for hearing the cries of citizens for help. His antenna is for sensing danger and social trends, and his big eyes are for seeing into every corner of society to spot trouble. Pipo-kun's friendly, approachable image is used on posters, pamphlets, and at public events, to promote safety and build a positive relationship between the police and the community. He is a disarming and memorable symbol of law and order in the city. In the bustling, neon-lit neighborhood of Shinjuku, there is a famous and highly regarded bar that is notoriously difficult to find. It is known as Bar Na Monai, which translates to bar with no name. True to its name, the bar has no sign on its door, no website, and no publicly listed phone number. It is hidden away in a basement, and finding it for the first time is a challenge that is part of its allure. You have to know what you are looking for, a plain, unmarked wooden door, in a quiet back alley. Inside, it is a small, elegant space, a quiet sanctuary for serious cocktail lovers. The anonymity and the search are part of the experience, a filter that ensures that those who find it are the ones who will truly appreciate it. As you look at the facades of modern apartment buildings in Tokyo, you might notice a strange architectural feature. Many apartments have balconies that are incredibly narrow, perhaps only a foot deep, making them too small to stand on or to hold a chair or a plant. Their only function seems to be to hold the apartment's air conditioning compressor unit. These are not a design flaw but a clever response to a quirk in the building code, which requires that apartments have an accessible exterior space for emergency escape purposes. These tiny, unusable balconies fulfill the letter of the law, without sacrificing valuable interior floor space. They are a perfect example of the pragmatic and space-saving solutions that are necessary in a city where every square inch is precious. They are balconies in name only. Cat Street is a trendy, winding lane that connects the fashionable neighborhoods of Shibuya and Harajuku, lined with cool boutiques and cafes. With a name like Cat Street, you might expect to find it teeming with feline residents, but the street is not named for an abundance of actual cats. The origin of the name is a bit more poetic. While there are a few theories, the most popular one is that the name comes from the shape of the street itself. It is narrow, and it curves and winds gently, not in a straight line, which some people thought resembled the curved back of a cat. Another theory says the name came from the fact that many cats used to live along the now buried Shibuya River, which the street follows. Either way, the name evokes a certain slinky, stylish character that fits the street perfectly. The Capsule Hotel, with its futuristic sleeping pods stacked in neat rows, seems like a quintessential Tokyo invention. The world's first capsule hotel did open in Japan, but in Osaka, in 1979. The architectural concept that inspired it, however, was born in Tokyo several years earlier. The 1972 Nakagin Capsule Tower was the true pioneer of the capsule concept. Its architect envisioned the small, plug-in pods not as temporary hotel rooms, but as a new form of permanent urban living for bachelor salarymen. The capsule hotel took this idea of a minimal, self-contained living space and adapted it for short-term stays. So while Tokyo did not invent the capsule hotel, it did invent the radical architectural idea that made it possible, a futuristic vision of compact living that has now spread around the world. In Tokyo, the love for cute mascots, known as Yurukira, extends to the most serious of professions. We've met Pipo-kun, the friendly face of the Tokyo Metropolitan Police, but he is not alone. The Tokyo Fire Department has its own mascot, and it looks suspiciously familiar. The fire department's mascot is also a cute, alien-like creature, with big ears, and an antenna. It is, in fact, a firefighter version of Peeper-kun, sometimes called Fire Peeper-kun. He wears a firefighter's helmet and uniform, but is otherwise the same character. This sharing of a mascot, with slight variations, is a charming example of the Japanese tendency to create a cute and friendly face for every public service. It shows a desire to make these official bodies seem more approachable and part of the same civic family. The neighborhood of Kappabashi is Tokyo's Kitchen Town, a district where restaurant owners and chefs come to buy everything they need, from pots and pans to uniforms and knives. The most famous and fascinating items sold in Kappabashi, however, are the hyper-realistic plastic food models, known as sampuru. Entire shops are dedicated to these incredible creations. You can see a perfect plastic bowl of ramen, with glistening broth and delicate toppings, a glistening piece of sushi that looks good enough to eat, or a forkful of spaghetti frozen in mid-air. These models are used in restaurant windows across Japan to show customers what the food looks like. In Kappabashi, they are elevated to an art form, a strange and beautiful craft that is unique to Japan. Riding the elevator in the Roppongi Hills Mori Tower is a subtle and unique sensory experience. The elevators are fast and smooth, but the designers added an extra layer to the journey by collaborating with a sound designer to create a unique auditory experience for the ride. The sounds and music inside the elevator change as it ascends or descends, with different musical themes for the lower, middle and upper floors, where the art museum and observation deck are located. The sounds are designed to be calming and to help orient passengers, giving them a subconscious sense of where they are in the building. It is a small, thoughtful detail that most people might not consciously notice, but it adds a layer of quiet sophistication to the simple act of riding an elevator. Our walk through Tokyo is coming to an end. Wherever you've drifted to, you don't need to come back. There's nothing more to listen for tonight. Sleep well.